beautifuls, and welcome back to Pardon Our Honesty, where this is part 2 of our discussion on blended families.
I think if you don't truly lay it out of how you parent and how you think of, like, because if he were to say, I don't believe in spanking, I would have been like, probably would have been like deuces.
There's no way
because
you can lay down everything.
I think you do. If you know majority.
I agree.
I think
you can't lay down every single.
I think you know, if somebody were to ask me that, how do you parent? I could say I parent with rule. These are expectations. They get grounded. If she needs her ass beat, she's going to get her ass beat, blah, blah, blah. And if you sit down and say, yeah, I'm kind of a free spirit. We don't really have a schedule. I don't believe in spanking. And grounding's dumb. They should just talk about their feelings.
Then you have the opportunity to compromise.
Those are like,
or it's
opposites. Those are like
you have the
opposites.
opportunity to compromise.
So what's your one advice?
Oh God. My one advice is, I would say you have to have some kind of agreement, some kind of way to work with the other parent, as well as the other step parent, if there's a significant other. Ed reached out to my ex, and they have a relationship. They're not buddy-buddy, but if there was something going on with the kids, he could call him and say, hey, this is what I'm thinking. This is what I feel about it. And so, yeah, it doesn't work both ways. No, it did not work both ways. So I commend him for that, for wanting to reach out and have that relationship with the ex so that they could talk about the children. I reached out to his wife at the time and was like, hey, lady, you're going to be helping me raise these kids. So we ain't got to be best friends, but we need to have some kind of relationship that I can share with you. Hey, these are the rules at this house. When they come to you for the summer, I expect them to do these same things. And okay, Alexa's ass is running away. Yes, I did.
Oh, wait, you're talking to your ex's wife. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Oh, we thought okay. You did not make that very clear.
Yeah.
The ex's wife. Ed talked to the ex. I talked to the ex's wife.
Gotcha.
Mother to mother. Because, lady, you're going to help me raise these kids. So we got to be able to communicate. We don't have to be best friends, but hey, these are the rules. This is what I do. This is how I do it. Now, when they come to you, they're yours. But, if you got issues, feel free to call me or whatever. So I think you got to be able to, if you can, have a relationship with the other parents.
Okay, Ed. What's your advice?
Communicate about all those things that you just take for granted.
Yes.
If you're uncomfortable having the conversation, you're already in trouble. So you got to talk about the hard topics, especially if you're going into it knowing that there's multiple kids, multiple personalities. You got to have the hard conversations.
If you met somebody who said that they were going to, go to let's say they have no children or they have, one child, and they say they're going to go to somebody who has 3 or 4 kids, do you give them like a caution warning?
Yep, absolutely.
I do too.
Why?
I'm like, y'all really need to think. You're looking at me like, you really need to think about this. You're taking on baby mamas. You're taking on past traumas of these children and the parent. You're taking on depending on their age. If they were raised like shitheads, you're taking that on. If they had no discipline, you're taking that on. You need to warn people because people go in with rose. I did. I went in thinking we're going to get these children and we're going to have a wonderful house because that's what I knew being raised. And, I know that he had once he was Oma, he had it's hard, but, he knew what love was. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, it's going to be wonderful. And I had an okay relationship with his older children before he got back. So they would spend the night with me and we'd go out and then it just like, when you have 7 in the house, number one, that's just a shit show. Well, 8, counting my daughter. So when you put 8 kids together, that was my fault thinking that was something that was feasible because you can't put 8 people. That's 3 different mothers that had influences on raising and 3 different, he didn't really raise any of them full time for a long, long period of time. Right. So he didn't have that relationship. That was a shit show, so I feel like you do. But I still thought we were going to be like the Partridge Family and we would go do all this stuff. And I think it only lasted a month and then it was just shit after shit after shit after shit. And then, it just.
I think that's because you had all of these different personalities, like you're saying, having an influence on the children and having to deal with you and influence on
Well, right,
Nick.
but I'm
So,
saying somebody
like,
should have warned. Well, I mean, people did warn me. I'll tell you, people did warn me when I said. Well, first off, anytime you say 7 children, there's always a reaction. So, dear lovely Nicholas, Nick honestly just loves children. I think he'd have 100 of them.
Yes.
And I hurt for him that his children don't realize how much he loves them, and that, whatever mistakes were made or whatever, he loves them so much. And I know it hurts him. He doesn't have the relationship with them. But my mom used to say, did he not have a TV? Because all he did was make babies. But, I would tell people that and they would be like, you're crazy. How do you go to somebody with 7 kids and 3 baby, that's going to be chaos. No, we're great. It's going to be great.
It was great. It is great. And
I don't care what
I
people
think
say.
women feel that even more often than Nick would with 7 kids, because definitely when I got a divorce, I was like, nobody's going to want this lady with these 4 kids. And I have 2 different fathers for my children. I have 3 by one individual and 1 by another. And then I'm like, oh, I got 2 baby daddies. And then I get married. What if he wants a baby? Ed did not want a baby.
Was not bringing another one into this world.
Listen, he asked me if I wanted to have a baby. I said, are you freaking nuts?
I would have had a baby with you.
We have a freaking we have a
Basic.
soccer team. We have a
Basic.
freaking soccer team. Like, we do not need any more kids.
Yes.
Almost.
What?
Oh my
So you could
gosh.
share
Hell
bonds
no.
together. Ed
Hell
felt the
no.
same way you felt.
Hell
man.
no.
And I was just like, I did feel
I would have
I
had
would
more
never-
children. I would have had more children, but not knowing that we already have 7.
Well, why not?
The way I looked
It's too
at I
much.
got to answer for that. The way I looked at it, okay, you already got 6 personalities. All of them are feeling some kind of way.
Yeah.
And then you bring in another child. And of course, that's y'all's child. So y'all going to have more affection. You're going to favor that young baby. And we all going to be, no, I was not going to do that.
I mean, that would happen regardless if you have 1 and 1 or 1 and 2.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
But you already got 6, 7, and 8.
I know, but I don't,
Shit, just
Can you imagine having 6 kids pissed because you had a baby?
they already are all
They already
pissed.
are mad. What are you talking
We
about?
have
Yeah.
7 that are
What I've
pissed.
learned is that no matter what you do, anybody has
Yes,
something
and
to
that-
say about everything.
And
like,
that's what
whatever,
I
dude.
would say about your question. Do you warn people about getting into a relationship with somebody that already has kids? I say no, because you
No,
don't
then you're doing a disservice.
No,
No,
you
warn
don't know what that family dynamic is going to be
I don't-
like for
But
them.
you need to prep them to find out. You
I
need
don't-
to say,
yes, you need to have the hard
a warning,
conversations
just like a
about-
yellow lights caution.
You're not
No.
saying don't do it. You're just saying you need to make sure you have the conversation first, up front. No secrets, everything out in the open, because it's going to bite you if you don't.
Yeah, I think almost every
That's
blended
true.
family I've ever talked to, and maybe, I don't know if you agree, has some kind of issue in regards to, even in the beginning, maybe they've worked through it, but parenting styles or discipline styles or even relationships. My bond with my daughter is very different, I think, than your bond with your children.
Yeah.
And so that could be something that upsets him. Like, this, you guys are so close or whatever, you know what I mean? So like, you have to have that open, like, I feel like,
I
There's
think
only
yes.
so much you can give somebody up front. Like you can I think warning is really like a harsh thing.
Very harsh.
You could have a
Yes, that's
conversation
what it
about
Harsh.
I could have a conversation about
Whatever.
how mine works.
Yes.
This is how me
Or
and Megan work
saying-
and all of our children together, and this is how Tiffany and Edward work and all our
Yeah,
children
or
together.
saying you
But-
guys need to have serious conversation. Okay, especially if you're going to get serious. If you guys are just doing your thing, it doesn't matter. If
Right.
you're going to be serious with this individual and they have children, then yes, you need to sit down and discuss what are the rules? What is your parenting style? What is your expectations of me? What is my expectations of you? Yes, have that. But if you're just having fun and the kids come and go, y'all do little fun stuff, there's no need for a warning.
I don't think there's a need for a warning.
I mean,
think
yeah, I
maybe
don't
the
think there's a
warning-
need for
I
a
think,
warning.
like, you
I
have a
like the word
tornado
warning.
warning, a hurricane
Yeah,
warning,
yes,
an earthquake warning. Like,
exactly.
those are all warnings that are
It is
impending
like a
doom.
hurricane and it is like a
It depends
tornado.
on the
Ind-
because what if you met the
independent doom.
kids at a very young? Let's say the kid was 3. You have the opportunity to mold that.
It depends
kid.
if the parent allows you. So if I sat down with Nick and a 3-year-old was involved and Nick said, no, you will not do this, you will not do that, I don't want you doing this, that could still be a warning because I'd be like, wait a minute, I'm not comfortable with that. I want to be able to discipline or I want to be able to, I believe in celebrating Christmas. I don't know, whatever it is. And he was like, absolutely not. Then like, cause there's a lot of things he did let me bring to the relationship. I think I bring a lot of like,
You bring a lot that I
Of,
can
like-
describe, outline. right
like
now.
girly,
More than
like,
that to go off of.
holiday
Yeah.
stuff and
Yes,
like
of course,
traditions.
yeah.
And he'd be like, why are we doing this? I'm like,
Yes.
to create traditions for the children. But if he were to tell me in the beginning, you're not ever allowed to do any of that, that would be, so just because they're babies doesn't mean you're still going to get the freedom to raise them the way you'd like or do the traditions you like or know or any of that
Okay,
stuff.
but
So
you've gone past the whole, we're just getting to know each other to,
no. I'm saying like if somebody
be
came to me,
careful.
if somebody came to me and said, I'm dating somebody with children, I would definitely say, can we have a talk before this gets super serious?
Okay.
These are things you need to get. You might fall
Yeah,
in
to
love
help
with
them
Nick.
out.
Nick
Help
might
them
be
out.
the,
Yes.
to help them out. But I'm
Not
going to say,
warning
it is a
them,
warning.
impending
It is a
doom.
warning. I
It's
just,
not impending destruction, guys. Jeez.
Death Star.
I just want to say too, that just for the record, I love all Nick's children. And I love
Yes, she does.
Nick to no end.
Yes,
But it is
she
not for
does.
the faint of heart.
No.
No.
It is not
No,
easy.
it's not
So,
easy.
okay, how do you build a bond with the other people's children? Is it possible to have the same bond? I know some people say they love their stepchildren the same as their own, which you do, but the bond, how do you build a bond?
So
Start with
everybody has to want to.
Yeah.
The step parent can try and maybe want to, but if the children feel like they're betraying their parent
Mhm.
by having a bond with you, for me, I said, look, I love you all as if you were on my own, but I don't want you to think that I'm trying to replace your father. Your father's here, he's actively engaged in your life. I'm okay with that. I'm good with that. My job is to help you be the best you can be, period. Now, like I said before, two of them I think are kind of indifferent. Two of them we have a relationship with. I wish it were better. I absolutely do. But at the same time, I'm not going to force myself on anyone.
Right. I feel like it's like a bonus to have another person who loves you.
I do too.
Just
But
another
everybody don't see it
insight,
like
another
Everybody doesn't see it
right.
that way.
So
Like
how
a
do you
parent or
think?
kid
No, like
doesn't see it
another
like that.
the kid doesn't see it like that,
Yeah.
but a parent, I feel like as a child, if I looked up and said, "Man, Ed really gave me advice on this paper," or "Ed really is looking out for me," and "Ed, wow, that's great because my dad did too," and then Ed, like I feel like
The more people you
the
got
more
in
people
your
you
corner,
have in your corner, it doesn't
Yeah.
have to be like a,
I think
How about you? What do you think about
for
bonding?
a kid? Well, bonding. Wow, that's interesting because I don't know that I have a great bond with my children, even myself. So I feel that Ed has a greater bond with the oldest and youngest, and one of the reasons is that my oldest definitely has found a father figure in Ed that he can call and ask those hard questions about being a father and being a man and what that's supposed to look like. And then the youngest, unfortunately, got stuck with Ed. I won't say stuck, but I was deployed for a year. So, and her father was also deployed at the same time, or he wasn't here. He just wasn't here. So he was the parent. I mean, I wasn't there. So they got really close during that time. And like I said, in the very beginning, they loved each other. They were just like two peas in the pod. So, but with his kids, I don't know that I would say I don't have a strong bond with them. I love them. If they called me today and said, "Miss Tiffany, I need such and such," I'd be right there for them. But it didn't happen. And I think that's a lot of different influences.
So you
in
think
their
you
lives.
just have to have the mindset to accept that?
Yeah.
So, because I think that could be a stressful,
Yeah,
hurtful thing
it
too, to
can.
think that
It
the
is.
children don't like you,
Yeah.
or you're causing conflict in their life, or
Yeah.
like.
And I take into consideration what they were told. So for me, I made it a point that I'm not going to badmouth the other parent, my ex, because I do want them to have a relationship with him. And whatever that looks like is because they decided it. It wasn't because of something I said. And same thing for Ed. I think he never badmouth the other parent because, that's still their parent. And the more you badmouth them, the more they're going to love that other person.
And you're just hurting the child.
You're
just hurting the child. They feel guilty.
You're talking negative about the parent. That
right.
parent is still half of that child.
Yeah.
Right.
It sure is.
Yeah. And I think we did the same thing. We don't talk negatively. We tell the kids, you can feel any way you say anything. We don't say anything negative, even if we wanted to. We just say, how do you feel about that? Or maybe you should let them know that. Mm-hmm. Now, on the other side with I think every single one of them would probably bash Nick or I at every opportunity instead of saying, hey, why don't you talk to your father? Or why don't you talk to Megan? Or hey, why don't you go spend time with them? And so I think that's a huge, for bonding for me, for them is, his older children, we had a relationship, we would just spend time together because he wasn't here. And, they think I was like the fun getaway, we go do stuff and we would, they'd spend the night, watch movies or whatever. And, I thought I had a bond with them, but I think that was wrong. But now the younger ones, I feel like Ava, I have a very close bond with. She's a girl, of course, so she brings me all the girl stuff. And so the boys, I feel like it's a love-hate. Some days it's great, some days it's bad. And I think once they mature a little bit, it'll be easier for me to bond with them, to go and spend time with them, to where I like spending the time, where it's a little harder sometimes. I love spending time with them and being with them, but it's harder sometimes where it's easier with the girl. Boys. And so, And so I think as a step parent, you have to just take what you can get when it is. Maybe it's just sitting at the table and playing Uno one round and hey, that was fun. And then let it go without trying so hard. How do you think you bond?
I would have to.
You went last.
I know. I heard everybody else's ideas, and now I get to create my own. Or I will say one thing, like what Tiffany says, is that a personality trait of mine is I have a hard time bonding. Period, and who knows why? Start from whatever age or whatever experience. I don't care. You just fill that blank in, and not using that as an excuse. But I recognize that, and I recognize that I have that with my children. I recognize that I have that with Madison. I recognize that I have that with my own family members, so that's something that I recognize that I have a hard time bonding, period. And I don't know, maybe that's a dude thing of compartmentalizing.
No, I think it's trauma.
I
think it's trauma.
I think it's trauma.
You're protecting yourself. I mean, even though it's weird to even say that out loud, I'm protecting myself from my kids, but I do feel like if they told me, which they have before, you're the worst parent ever, that's gonna hurt me. And so, maybe if I wasn't that close to them, I know it's horrible, then if they say that to me, it's not gonna hurt as bad.
Go ahead, Ed. I think you have something to say.
I think it is somewhat of a male thing. Okay, we're just not the bonding. That's just not our thing. However, I also look at it on a long enough time horizon is a cycle. So they might not like me today, but they'll come back around 5, 10, 15 years down. I'm still going to be here. I'm not going anywhere.
Right.
So it'll work itself out. I think all of the negative things that you go through when they're young teenagers, life is still going to happen. And then they're going to realize, oh, now I see. Now it makes sense what they were saying. Now I understand. I did have somebody in my corner, even though I pushed them away and didn't want to be there, they were there. So I think in the long run, it comes back. But you just got to deal with it.
Last question for that I have. So when you blend children, how much do you force them to get along? Like how important is it that you have siblings that are blended together to bond in some way or have a positive relationship, or do they just get to go do their thing and do their thing? Do you parent them exactly the same? Even though you raise your kids one way and you raise them exactly the same now that they're blended? How do you deal with siblings? Well, step siblings.
Okay, I guess I'm first.
If we all just look at one person.
Yes.
So, no, you can't treat them all the same because they all have their different personalities. There's different issues that came into that were there when you got there. So you have to recognize there's differences. Do you try to incorporate everybody and make everybody feel welcome? Yes. Now, whether they feel that or not, that's out of your control. But you do the best you can to try to bring everybody in the fold, try to make sure everybody feels included, make sure they're included. But that's all. I mean, there's a whole nother personality on the other side. So they have to buy-in as well.
Mm-hmm. I think, well, for us, what I tried to do in the family is, Ed was always the fun parent. So I was like, I'm going to be the fun parent too. So I planned these elaborate trips. We're going to go on a cruise. We're going to go on a vacation when they come. We're going to get everybody together. Everybody's going to love each other. It's going to be so great. And for the most part, I think all of them got along.
For the first 10 minutes.
Yeah, I was going to say.
They all got along. They reached out.
As adults, you're saying now? Or
as children, they got along.
Yeah.
Everybody, when we were all co-located,
together. Yeah.
everybody got along. It was,
and they stay in contact with each other, not as often as they used to, but I know, they reach out to each other and check on each other. But that was my way of saying, okay, I know you guys aren't organic and I'm not your mom and Ed's not your dad, but hey, we're going to be a family. That by dadgummit, we're going to have fun together. And so that's what I did. But we just treated them like, hey, y'all, this is the family. You and I have to be brothers and sisters, but I do believe they called each other. That's my brother and that's my sister or whatever.
I think our dynamic's a little harder because the older children kind of felt the younger children were favored.
That's all.
That's
always. That's
but I mean, so
I
there
don't know
was.
if that's always right. I know for us that's how it was, and I think it was more on not even including you. That was going to happen regardless.
Mm-hmm. Right, but what I'm saying is to get them all together to get along, it was very difficult. Like we would do trips or we would do fun stuff to make it less. And, it would go good for a little bit. And then so-and-so, they team off, that many children, you just have to, there's 8 children at that point together doing stuff. They're upset that these kids are acting that way. And why does this kid get that? We never got that. And dad never took us to do this when we were their age. And it's all this. So for us to bond usually ended up like, you play a game for 20 minutes at the table, then everybody can go their own way, or try to have a rule in the household. Everybody has to speak respectful to each other. Try our best to get people just to at least be respectful and like each other. But I think sometimes that's even harder to bond, blend it. Like for my daughter, she bonded a little bit with the kids, but there's a lot of annoyance with them too. She would feel like, why do they get away? Because, she was very strict upbringing and was disciplined. Mm-hmm. And so she'd be like, why do they get to talk to you that way? And why do they not get this? And there's all that, like, how could they don't have? I'm like, well, that's his children. That's not my child. You know what I mean? Like, so I think it's hard sometimes to get the kids to blend when they feel like, well, they're getting treated different than I was ever treated. So I think that's a magical little, you got to figure out. I think as they get older, it gets easier because they understand and you can communicate with them like adults, well, this is the reason why, because those are his children and this is how he's raising them and your mother raised you a certain way, or even now as adults, hey, then walk away. Y'all don't have to sit here and fight. You're adults, walk away from this. You can teach as they get older. I think my advice would be start small. Get them to spend some time playing a game together as a family or something and start small and then work your way up instead of jumping right in and thinking. What about you? How do you make the children bond?
Well, I know I looked at my phone and I have this thing called sibling time. And that's what I was doing with my children at the house. Spend 5 or 10 minutes with one game of this or one game of that. We miss it a lot, but sometimes
just them, not you.
Just them, not me, but just something for them to do. When I was growing up, I had my cousin and my brother and extended cousins. And we just went out and did things and we got along.
And you wanted to.
We wanted to do things together. We wanted to get along. But in my household now, I feel like my kids are they don't, at times, not all the time, do not want to get along with each other or who do not want to build that with them. I mean, I feel like they tolerate each other. Yeah. But for some reason, for them to really bond with each other is not there. Or it's just 2 of them out of the 3 or these 2 out of this one or whatever. But I just hope that as time goes on, as they get older and they have more experiences, not negative, but just experiences in general, that bondage will happen with them.
Well, I think too, for the kids, I always told them once I'm gone, all you got is each other. So you guys need to figure it out. And I think the oldest one, he's 15, 16 years older than the baby. And he's the one that kind of has said, hey, we're family. We're going to love on each other. And so they have a whole sibling group chat thing. And that's something for us as young people, we didn't have. And then with my sister, I'm not close with her at all. And so that was something I wanted to change in our family was, okay, you do need to be close with your siblings and your family, because that's something I know that even bothers me today, that my immediate family, we are not close at all.
Yeah.
So, but it's worked for them, but it took one of them having the initiative to say, hey, we're freaking family. And he's basically their stepbrother.
So what is the last thing you would say to somebody listening or watching us about blended families?
Blended families are great.
They're hard.
They're great. Yes, they're great.
They are
great.
hard.
They are great.
They're
They
an
can
experience.
bring
They are
so
hard.
many new
There you
experiences
go.
and
They
such
might make
joy.
you start losing your hair like I'm apparently doing.
That's because you're aging. We're going to talk about that too.
Your idea of losing your hair and my idea of losing your hair, totally different.
What's your advice, Ed?
Just like any family, you're gonna have your ups and downs, but you cannot over communicate. You cannot over communicate.
You got to talk.
Put your expectations out there, but it's
Yeah.
freaking hard. So go in with the whole, this is going to be hard. And if anybody tells you it's not hard, like Tiffany, they're lying.
I don't think she said it wasn't going to be hard.
It's
She
very
said it's not a
hard.
pending doom.
No, it's not a pending doom. I would say, honestly, I would say if
Dun,
you're
dun,
a
dun.
blended family, you need to.
You need counseling.
Yes,
You need
counseling.
regular
You do need that.
counseling.
You do need
Start
counseling.
now. Just start now. I promise you will love it. Start now.
You do need counseling, but you need to have enough maturity that you're able or willing to work across the table with the other parent.
She is really hopeful about this, just for the record.
What do you mean?
You are
Yes!
so helpful about these other parents. So many people are so dang selfish and bitter. I think that's like on the bottom of, you have to worry about what's in your
What
house.
you can control.
Because those exes are
The
nasty.
things you can control is the people.
Some
right
of
here
those
in your
exes.
house.
But
Not
if
all
you
exes.
never try to reach out to the ex and say, hey,
I'm listening. Let her talk.
hey,
Not that I agree.
I'm
but
not
let
the
her talk.
enemy. I want to be a part of your children's
And they're going to
lives.
block you.
I never got blocked.
Ooh,
Even though
lucky you.
even though I do not have a relationship
Look at-
with
look at
Ed's
Ed.
ex, we went to a graduation for his daughter, and she and I sat there, had a great
I would hope so.
conversation.
You're grown adults. I
Okay,
would
so
hope so.
why can't that be like
'Cause
that
it's
in the
not
beginning?
ever
No,
gonna
'cause
happen
it's
like
the
that.
other part. I think it's the other parent. It's the parent versus parent, and they use the kid as a pawn. Like,
Right.
Okay,
literally,
well, if
that's
you
what it
have
is.
that,
Yes.
then that's not going.
That's why you got to focus on your household. Which
If you
can
have-
do.
Go ahead, let Tiffany finish. what
I'm
she's
not letting
saying, so
Tiffany
she can-
finish. I don't agree.
Communicate. You have to communicate.
Oh, gosh.
You
I
gotta
don't understand why
communicate.
you guys can't like.
Okay, Nick, what do
Because
you
that's-
Nick, what's
that
your
is an
advice?
option that you reach across the table.
Yes, it is.
With
an
the-
option.
It's an
with
option,
your-
but it's not an option for everybody.
And
You gotta
I pray
understand
that
Okay,
everybody would be
yes.
willing. Yes.
Yes.
I would love if every person
Have that
reached out and said,
communication.
hey, X, let's
Have that.
be
Let's do what's in the
co-parents.
best
That's
interest
all
of
for
the
the
child.
child. And most people are too caught up in themselves. They're not going to do that. But
I mean, she's not wrong.
I'm not
she's
wrong.
Not wrong.
And I feel like, I mean, I could be wrong, but I think sometimes the women make it worse. I mean, I'm sure some men do. But I feel like some women are brutal. Like, I need your child support, but you ain't going to see your child. Or, you know, they talk nasty or just in general.
Okay, so then my advice is women, get your shit together, go to counseling, deal with it, and co-parent. Like,
Because the
that's-
baby is
yeah,
the most
because
important.
that child has nothing to do with your relationship, and you're just setting
Yeah.
them up to be bitter, resentful, hateful adults who are going to carry on that stupid ass
Yep.
cycle
Right.
Repeat it.
through their
Correct.
relationships and
Yep.
keep doing it to their children
Correct.
and so on and so on.
You
So
might be hurt.
That's my advice.
Yeah, you might be hurt and you might love that person, but you just can't be with them anymore. Get over it.
Yes.
That's
Deal
the
with it.
one
Absolutely.
thing
What's your
I don't
advice?
want my children to do is repeat the cycle.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Not that whole like
Yes.
parent marriage thing or whatever. I'm just talking about repeat the cycle of using their child as a pawn.
Yeah.
Because
Yes.
that's the
Absolutely.
It's horrible.
Yeah.
worst
Absolutely.
thing ever.
What's your best advice for a blended family?
Do it. Like do it. Just it's an experience, right? Listen.
Just do
It's
it.
an experience.
Yeah, just do it.
Okay.
Doing it, and it's not
okay.
horrible.
Thank you. It's impending doom. The Death Star is on its way. But look, just do it. You just have to, like Edward said, communicate.
Yes.
You have to communicate.
Yes.
You have to put expectations out there.
Yes.
And you have to make an outline. Just be defined roles, and also be willing to be flexible.
Yes.
What I did not know
is how unflexible I am. Well, I don't mean that way, but I mean in children.
What in the world?
I don't know where we just went.
In parenting,
But what
I am
saying-
very unflexible.
what
He
I'm
doesn't want to
saying-
throw me under the bus.
What
And
I'm
Megan's
saying
okay
is
to
you
ask
have
to deal with.
You have to be flexible. You have to be literally. You have to be
Yes.
flexible. I'm not saying you have to change.
Compromise. Yeah,
You have to compromise. There you go. You just have to
Yes.
be flexible and be able to compromise. So that's it.
I'm really
Do
bad
it.
at that.
Yes. Do it and just compromise.
and get it together.
I do have therapy. I do have therapy.
All right, guys. We hope that you got one nugget from this conversation with us and our significant others. Please like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, bye guys.
Bye.